welcome to another episode of the Evolution channel. My name is Johan Landgren, and today I'm with you from my beekeeping workshop. In this episode, I'll take a closer look at the combination of the fully electric car and self-driving technology, and how it's about to transform the whole car industry and our perception and idea of the personal vehicle. I will argue that the self-driving electric car is about to transform our daily life in a major way within only years and not decades. Specifically, I will take a closer look at the recent report on the future of transportation. I will also discuss why Tesla remains a leader and disruptor in the car industry. I will also discuss how Volvo's recent announcement to go fully electric may have an impact on the rest of the car industry in the next couple of years. Here I am, visiting Tesla's and the world's biggest charging station outside Oslo during my Tesla road trip in Norway recently. I went to Norway to better understand why Norway and Tesla remains leaders and disruptors when it comes to the electrification of the car industry. What better way to do this than by talking to regular Norwegians and EV travelers and gain some experience during a vacation with an electric car? At the Nebbenes supercharging station just north from Oslo, Tesla has installed no less than 20 supercharging stalls where you can charge your Tesla battery up to 80% in about 20 to 40 minutes, depending on how much energy you have left when you arrive. But like almost everywhere in Norway, there are plenty of chargers for all kinds of EVs, and Nebbenes is no exception. Here you'll find 6 stalls for fast charging, of which 4 are 50 kilowatt stalls and 2 22 kilowatt stalls. With the popular 50 kilowatt stalls, you can charge BMW i3, for example, in about 20 minutes to reach an 80% charge. The cost is about $6 for 20 minutes fast charging here in Norway. Any business in Norway who wants to install a charger at the parking lot gets paid by the state to do so. According to a Norwegian EV owner I met here in Norway, there are fast chargers almost every 100 kilometers in Norway, which makes range anxiety a non-issue. Yes, at certain places they haven't built fast chargers, but if you're staying overnight, all hotels, hostels and B&Bs etc. are very helpful with charging from regular outlets. If you're traveling from Sweden or other European countries with your EV, including Tesla, you must make sure your charging cable works in Norway before you go, because sometimes regular outlets won't recognize your cable in Norway. Also check your charging map before you head up in the mountains and everything will be great. But normally you don't have to think about charging in Norway. You can find charging stations at any regular gas station, like this one I visited on my way to Tesla's supercharging station in Nebbenes. It is considered normal to have between 3 to 6 fast chargers, where the majority is chargers with 50 kilowatts. You can charge, for example, your BMW i3 for about 20 minutes and have enough juice for your daily commute to work and shopping on your way home. The latest figure I've heard is that by the end of this year, Norway is expected to reach the magic number of 50% of new registrations of cars being only electric or plug-in by the end of this year. This is from about 42% right now. So how is this possible, you may ask? Well, it's a combination of many factors, like tax exemptions on buying new EVs and exemptions on road fees, which in Norway could be about $200 to $250 a month if you drive regularly. But what really is vital to Norway's success, and indeed Tesla's, is making it easy to get around in an electric car. When I stop by to charge and speak with Tesla owners, I noticed a great mix of people and how frequent new Teslas came and went. I spoke with a guy from the Norwegian military, for example, who said that the Norwegian Defense Force pays for the Tesla supercharging for its many Tesla Model S owners. And a guy from Netherlands I spoke with said he loved Norway because it was so easy to get around in an electric car. But interestingly, he also said that he would have loved to visit the northern part of my home country, Sweden, but decided not to do so because of the few charging stations. Similar comments were made by other Norwegians and international EV travelers in Norway. I can honestly say I felt ashamed of my country, but Sweden is waking up, which we will come to next. I also went by a Tesla service center in Norway, and according to one of the Tesla employees I spoke with there are more than 25,000 Teslas on the road now, and the number is growing by the day. The interest for Model 3 is big, not only among current Tesla owners, but also among Norwegians in general. When you arrive to a hotel in Norway, you shouldn't be surprised if you find something like this. This hotel had no less than 2 destination chargers that could be used by Teslas, providing 380 volt and 32 amps each. In addition, it had a 380 volt and 16 amps outlet for other EVs, but there were also several other charging slots at this hotel parking. What distinguishes Tesla from other car makers is that the company, like Norway, has understood that you have to make owning and living with an EV not only cool, but easy and attractive to consumers. Tesla was early to make sure that its Tesla owners could get around on long trips, traveling between cities and charging within a reasonable time. Norway has similarly expanded its charging network to make sure you don't have to worry about range anxiety in your everyday travel or on most long trips within the country. Once you look at what's happening in Norway, it becomes clear that there is no way to stop the transition from combustion-driven cars to electric ones. It's just common sense on economic as well as technical and environmental grounds. But Norway is far from slowing down on its electric transition. On the contrary, the Norwegian government has set a goal that by 2025 all new cars will be electric. I would not be surprised if this happens even sooner. But Norway is electrifying much more than only cars, and we will come back to that in a later episode. What if I would tell you that within only 3 years, or by 2021, it may become 4 to 10 times as expensive to use a new vehicle per mile than to use transport as a service, and that even owning an old vehicle may become 2 to 4 times as expensive than to use transport as a service. Because what if owning an old or new vehicle becomes much more expensive and less convenient than to use transport as a service, where a self-driving electric car can pick you up at any time or any place? This is one of the core questions being answered in a very interesting report that came out in May and is written by the independent think tank Rethinks and has a rather provoking title: Rethinking Transportation 2020 to 2030, the disruption of transportation and the collapse of the internal combustion vehicle and oil industries, and is written by James Arbib and Tony Seba. So, 2 important quotes from the beginning of the summary. Quote, "The approval of autonomous vehicles will unleash a highly competitive market share grab among existing and new pre-transport as a service or ride-hailing companies in expectation of the outsized rewards of trillions of dollars of market opportunities and network effects. Pre-transport as a service platform providers like Uber, Lyft, and Didi are already engaged, and others will join this high-speed race. Winners-takes-all dynamics will force them to make large upfront investments to provide the highest possible level of service, ensuring supply matches demand in geographic market they enter. In this intensely competitive environment, businesses will offer services at a price trending toward cost. As a result, their fleets will quickly transition from human-driven internal combustion engine vehicles to autonomous electric vehicles because of key cost factors, including 10 times higher vehicle utilization rates, 500,000 mile vehicle lifetime, potentially improving to 1 million miles by 2030, and far lower maintenance, energy, finance, and insurance costs. End quote. Essentially what they're saying is that utilization of the cars, meaning you can use each autonomous vehicle, electric vehicle, much more often than a regular combustion-driven car. Specifically, they're saying that you can use an electric car, autonomous electric car, about 10 times as often than a regular car. And remember, an autonomous electric car has much lower maintenance costs and fuel costs. In the report, the authors are saying that by 2030, the number of vehicles on the road in the US may decrease from 247 million to 44 million. That the main driving factor behind this very fast transition mainly is economical and not environmental, as most people would think. We must remember that today only about 1 to 2 passengers are traveling on each trip in a car. If we maximize the number of passengers in each vehicle, we can decrease the vehicle fleet immensely. And if we at the same time make it very attractive to travel together with other people by lowering the price or offering different kinds of services, like having meetings, different kinds of entertainment, and of course to sleep in the vehicle, I think this transition will happen much faster than most people think. But more importantly, the authors point out in the report that the economical benefits of not owning your car goes much further than that. It may save about 10% of your annual income, or about $5,600 a year in transport costs. In the report, the authors mean that if you can utilize the self-driving electric cars in a much more effective way, you can open up space and land where the cars otherwise would have been parked. This in turn will open up for real estate owners or other activities that can be used on the land. But speaking about environmental impact and the resource footprint each car can have, it's interesting to think about self-driving electric cars, because not only can there be fewer on the roads, they can also be smaller and adapted for certain purposes. Let's say transporting small goods, transporting only one person in a very small vehicle. This of course will have a smaller footprint. Now, if we consider that not only cars will become electric and self-driving, but also buses, and if we utilize the personal vehicle from today, where we only use 1 to 2 passengers per trip, and we maximize the number of people using one vehicle, we can decrease the vehicle fleet size even more. I believe we can decrease the vehicle fleet of today to about 1/100th of what it is today. Of course, most people probably think that to decrease the personal vehicle fleet to 1/100th of what it is today is crazy and impossible. But again, I think the driving factor for this change will be economical. When people can have meetings and do other things during their trips, and when we utilize and maximize the use of each vehicle, the number of cars and the number of buses on the roads can decrease immensely. One of the major news this month, when Volvo came out with the announcement that they will only produce electric cars from 2019 and forward. 5 new models will be introduced between 2019 and 2021. 3 of these will be purely electric and 2 of them will be hybrid. Swedish Radio, for example, asked Volvo Cars CEO if not the move to go full electric could be considered a risk, as we don't know how the electric market will develop. The answer the CEO gave was quite interesting. Here's the CEO's reply. All decisions includes risk management, but I'm convinced that an even greater risk would be to stick to the combustion methods. What's particularly interesting with Volvo Cars' move to go fully electric is when you relate it to the company's efforts to go fully autonomous. Volvo is working hard to develop an ecosystem in terms of the self-driving technology, in a collaboration with Nvidia and Uber. Volvo's move to go fully electric is also related to the size of the company. The company is much smaller than the big players in the car industry, but still bigger than Tesla. Of course, this can simply be seen as great PR, but it also sends clear signals to Tesla that it takes its competition seriously and that the other car companies should do the same. Part of the answer why Volvo is making this move right now is because of an increasing demand for electric vehicles. But many Swedes are wondering why they're doing this right now. They're very late in the game. But if we relate this to another major news that came out recently in Sweden, the whole thing makes much more sense. When Volvo made the announcement to go fully electric, they specifically said that they wanted to send a signal to the lithium battery makers that this market needs to grow in order to make it possible for Volvo and others to make many more electric cars in the future. Earlier this year, former CPO of Tesla, Peter Carlson, created a new battery company that wants to create Europe's biggest lithium battery factory here in Sweden. The company is called Northvolt and wants to create a 32 gigawatt-hour lithium battery factory that would cost 4 billion euros to develop over a period of 6 years. Already, the Energy Transportation Agency and Swedish state-owned energy company Vattenfall and a lot of other investors have shown interest for this company. For those of you familiar with Tesla's Gigafactory and how the company wants to secure its whole supply chain for the batteries, Northvolt also wants to secure the access to nickel, lithium and other materials for the batteries as close as possible to the company and the factory here in Sweden. According to the company, they're planning to start building the factory in 2020 and reaching full capacity in 2023. Northvolt's choice of Sweden has of course many advantages. If we think about Volvo, and if it could be supplied by lithium batteries by Northvolt, this will enable a very interesting logistic solution for both companies. And when it comes to suppliers, lithium and nickel could be provided from Finland, for example. But of course, there are many other factors driving this change towards electrification and self-driving vehicles. Increasingly, we see the number of regulations and laws introduced locally and nationally speaking in favor of self-driving electric cars. A reflection in change of sentiment came quite recently from the German city of Stuttgart, where the environmental organization DUH sued the state of Stuttgart and the car producers, the German car producers Porsche and Daimler. And according to the German court, the only short-term solutions to decrease the emissions in the city is to introduce a ban on diesel cars in the city center. This court decision may have major impact on other German cities as well. München and Köln, for example, are also considering introducing a ban on diesel cars. Following this important court decision to introduce a ban on diesel cars in the city of Stuttgart, the city of Stuttgart and the German car producers has to introduce effective measures until the 1st of January 2018. Otherwise, the ban will be introduced early next year. On that final note, some final words about the future of electric cars. There is clearly no ban on diesel cars in Norway, but the market is basically exploding, nevertheless. Yet there is definitely room for improvement even in Norway, because where are the police cars? I went by a Norwegian police station and what did I find? The only visible police car I could find was this police car named Petra with a teddy bear in the front seat. Cool, but it wasn't electric. Thanks for watching Evolution Channel. Please comment below and don't forget to subscribe for more on the big picture on transportation, smart energy solutions and sustainable living.